Well, folks, the day has come. The day we've all been dreading has finally arrived. The movie literally nobody was asking for has finally come out. So, against all better judgment, I went and saw it, and here's my review. Before I even talk about the movie itself, I have to mention something that honestly surprised me. On opening day, I was the only person in my theater. I don't mean the theater is in the building. I mean the theater is in the screening room. Like the room that was screening the movie, I was the only one in the theater. And just for perspective, I saw people going into Minions, which opened a week ago, and Toy Story 5, which has been out for almost a month. There were crowds going into these movies, and those movies have been out for several weeks. That means more people were choosing to see those movies weeks after release than this one on opening day. Ugh, yikes. At least I had the optimistic view of my pessimism going in, and what I mean by that is I told myself, this movie is either going to prove me right, and it's going to be terrible, or it's going to be a pleasant surprise. Well, unfortunately, I was right. It is terrible. Now, if this were the first time the story had been told, I honestly think I'd be saying it's a fun adventure with memorable songs, colorful visuals, and likable characters. In other words, I would be stating my review of the original Moana. But because this is a scene-for-scene remake, I couldn't help comparing every single moment to the animated version, and every single time, the original was better. Every emotional beat, joke, musical number, and dramatic scene. There are maybe like one or two new jokes or lines sprinkled throughout the movie, but they just feel like deleted scenes from an early draft of the original script, like ideas and lines that were replaced and rewritten because somebody came up with something better. Nothing here feels like a genuine improvement or worthwhile reinterpretation. And the songs are another disappointment because they don't even feel like fresh performances. They feel like cover versions. And I can't even say they're cover versions because aside from Moana's songs, they're the same actors who performed them in the animated film, and somehow this time have less energy. The performances reminded me a lot of James Earl Jones, who returned as Mufasa in that live-action Lion King movie. The voice is recognizable, but the spark just isn't there anymore. And this is one of the biggest problems with Disney's remake strategy. Instead of creating something that stands on its own, they keep recreating movies that already worked almost perfectly the first time. As a result, you're constantly reminded that a better version already exists. I saw in the credits that Disney thanked Hawaii for tax benefits, and that partially explains why they made this and the soulless Lilo and Stitch remake last year. But if you're getting tax benefits anyway, why not just make an original movie and have it set in Hawaii? Heck, I'd even take another Pirates of the Caribbean movie over this. I do want to give credit where it's due, though. The actress playing Moana does a perfectly respectable job. She's charming, capable, and clearly has talent, and I genuinely hope this ends up being her big break, because I'd love to see her in an original project where she can really show what she can do, instead of just spending an entire movie recreating someone else's performance. She deserves material that lets her create a character instead of simply imitating one. And the film was directed by the director of Hamilton, and strangely enough, that's kind of what this feels like. It doesn't feel like a cinematic reimagining of Moana. It feels like a higher budget Broadway production that staging, performances, and overall presentation never escape the feeling that I'm watching an inferior version of something I've already seen done better. It feels less like a creative passion project and more like another entry in Disney's growing assembly line of live-action remakes, one designed only to capitalize on an already familiar property rather than justifying its own existence. And that's the biggest issue. The movie doesn't answer the question, why remake Moana? It only makes me ask it over and over again. It's basically the original, and I honestly can't recommend it to anybody. If you're somehow determined to spend 2 hours watching it, just watch the animated version. It's funnier, more emotional, more energetic, and simply a better movie. I feel like this movie was made, other than the previously mentioned tax benefits, because the Black Adam movie did not do as well as The Rock was hoping, and he made this to pay off debts.
Now what you're going to see here is why the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Things will never be the same because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
He is one of the executive producers of the film, after all. This was made just to inflate The Rock's ego and also get a tax break for Disney. I'd go so far as to say this isn't even worth pirating. If you're going to put in the time and effort to find a copy, spend that time and effort just watching the original instead. At least then you'll be watching a superior film. This is a movie that puts the Y in Disney. It's one of the most unnecessary remakes the studio has ever produced, and a very strong contender for the worst movie of the year. For me, it's an F, a 0 out of 10, and a 0 out of 5 stars.